passionate about the work that this organization does. And so this was a kind of a fun first project for me. I was absolutely blown away by the photos that the submittants sent in. The actual quality of these photographs, the critters in the photographs and everything, it was just mind-blowing to me. So I'm really excited to share the presentation. The way we're going to do this, there are actually 11 people who submitted photographs. I would love each person who submitted to talk through their slides. So if you are a submittant, please, if you're in the room, I would love to invite you to come up and talk through them, and I'll help push the slides along. If you're remote, everybody will just be able to hear you through your speaker. So just take yourself off mute at the appropriate time, and everyone will be able to hear you. So let's see, and then we'll try to keep, there were 11 total, there's 140 slides, so they're amazing though. You guys are going to love this. So we'll keep it to about 10 minutes or so per submittant. So without further ado, we'll get rid of my mug and get into the presentation. Whoa. Okay. And if you have questions during the presentation and you're remote, you can raise your hand, you can chat, and we do have a moderator who's accepting questions. So feel free to push those through. Roger Clem will be, helping with that. So does everybody see the presentation? No. No. Zoom does not. Zoom does not. You didn't share yet. Well, I did share. I promise. I don't have it. More of me. That's not what you need. You are screen sharing. Okay. How's that? Everybody happy? Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is the annual native plant slideshow. And because I made the presentation, I'm going to do the first submission. That's the perks, right? So this is my photograph. I'll bet everybody in this room knows where this was taken. It's the Carrizo Plain. How stunning was the color show at the Carrizo Plain this year? I mean, it was just fabulous. So this is the Monolopia lanceolato flowers, and there's a beautiful turkey vulture that I was able to catch on my iPhone while I was shaking in the wind. So I'm not the best photographer, but I absolutely love this scene. I was so inspired spending time in the Carrizo Plain this spring. So that's me. That's it. So John Thompson, are you here? Okay. Hi, John. Come on up. And I'll forward the slides for you if you like.
Okay, let me say, yeah, I've got it here. I got it. I want to say a little bit about, I try to do my flowers a bit along a theme. So I want to explain my title, which is kind of quirky. 11 years ago, I saw my first plumber's mariposa locally, and I fell in love with that plant. Since then, as the years developed, I've now been on a quest to photograph every species, subspecies, variety, and form of Calochortus lily in North America. People argue over just how many there are. I'm working with a list that's about 72, not counting a couple that are extinct and one that no one has ever seen, which is not like being extinct, just hard to get. This year, Marianne and I made 8 wildflower trips, and we saw 6 varieties that are new to us. And there might be 1 or 2 of those in this presentation. But what I actually love about chasing Mariposa lilies is that along the way, you find so many other wonderful things to look at. And so my philosophy is that if you go out looking for everything, you won't find much at all. But if you go out looking for one thing that's specific, it's amazing how it sharpens your focus to see a lot of other things you might not have been expecting, and that may also be just as dramatic. For example, in this photo, we were on a trip towards Carrizo Plain, but we wanted to see Shell Creek. I've been to Shell Creek, which gets a lot of press for botanists and enthusiasts up in the Central Coast area, but it's not as well known, I think, in Southern California as the Carrizo Plain. But it's a small pocket there off of, what is that, Highway 58, and it's really remarkable. In this case, you've got, I think these are mostly blue oaks that have yet to leaf out, and you've got baby blue eyes, tidy tips, and gold fields, and all kinds of other things as well. Obviously too small to be seen here, but it's a wonderful spot. I can hit the space bar. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, no, it's this one right here.
Space.
No, this one. Oh, there you go.
So, Carrizo Plain is famous for vast seas of Phacelia and hillside daisy, but it's also great for lupin and gold fields. You can actually see on the distance, on the distant slope there, that is more monolopia, hillside daisy, growing up in the distance. But here on this little level place, there was just amazing amounts of sun cups and gold fields, and then this sky lupin. And so that was an accidental find that we just pulled over and started looking at that. I have seen alkali mariposa, which is in this particular photo. I've seen it several times, but there is a compact meadow, alkaline meadow at Red Rock Canyon that I have visited with my wife, Marianne, 4 times now, each year, thinking this would be the year we get to see what we were hoping to see, because we know there's a meadow of these flowers there, but we were there one year and we saw 2 flowers in bloom. The next year, there were many more flowers, but almost all of them had been eaten by some predator, some herbivore, and there were 2 flowers in bloom. So we went up twice this year. Once we saw a handful of flowers, but we could tell it was going to be a really good year. So we went back about a week or 10 days later. And that was what happened in last May when everything came together and we saw there were probably a few thousand Mariposa lilies here blooming. Now, alkali Mariposa is so beautiful. You just have to see what it looks like close up. So this is what we were looking to see. And one thing about wildflower photography, maybe some of the botanists in this room probably can do this in real time, but I always find that it's only when I get home and start really studying the photograph and trying to, bring it into focus and sharpen it a bit, that I see things I didn't see in the flower in the first time, like the color gradations there on the stamens from white to that kind of neon pink. I just thought I'd never seen that before at all. But anyway, so that was what we saw up at Red Rock Canyon. Same day, we decided we spent a night up in Kernville, a nice place to spend a night. Good brewery for those who want to know. And but driving along, for the first time ever, we drove the road over Walker Pass, where the PCT cuts over, then goes north. That alone, that drive is an amazing drive. There's lots to see along the way. But we were looking left and right, and suddenly above the road, at a road cut, there were all of these mariposas that were up there waving in the wind. So we pull over into a narrow space and we clamber up there, and people driving by wondering, what are those people doing? Well, they're botanists. So there we were. But it was just a lovely, lovely show. Not a lot of diversity in terms of the form of these particular butterfly mariposas, but a lovely setting with, I think that's Onyx Peak in the background. There's a couple of Onyx Peaks in California, but this one's about somewhere above 5,000 feet. Now, the white fairy lantern was not on my bucket list. I'd seen it a few times, but I think that globe lilies, these rounded flowers, are often some of the hardest flowers to photograph because they don't really, it's hard to get them in focus. You get a piece of the flower and not another one. But this particular pair of white fairy lanterns were the most photogenic instance of this flower that I think I've ever seen. And so I couldn't help but say, well, that wasn't on my bucket list, but I'm always happy to improve a photo of a particular species if I can. What was on my bucket list, and this is what I was actually looking for on the same day, was the red fairy lantern. The red fairy lantern is technically same species as the white fairy lantern. It's just some call it a variety. Some say it's not even that, it's just a form. You find the white and the red blooming side by side. You find gradations from white to pale pink to medium dark pink to really, really wine colored, like on this one. But you know, whatever you regard it as, it's just simply gorgeous. And we were really happy to be able to find this somewhat rarer form of the Calochortus albus. Now, another Mariposa we found not too far from there was not a very uncommon Mariposa at all. It's the yellow Mariposa. For 100 miles or so north and south of the Bay Area, sometimes yellow Mariposas will fill the fields along the waysides. At the coast, however, the wind seems to produce really, really short Mariposas. I like short Mariposas because photographing a flower that's waving in the wind, it's just about impossible to do. These guys were short. They were, you know, kind of in low brush. And not only that, they look like quadruplets. Actually, they reminded me of my sisters and me in the back seat in the 50s when we were going on family vacations, all smashed together. But nonetheless, happy to find them. I made 2 trips through the Lockwood Valley in June, which is near Mount Pinos in Fraser Park. You may know it. I was looking to find the northern form of splendid Mariposa, which actually I'm not going to show tonight. But along the way, I just saw like 2 or 3 plants of this favorite of mine that is not too hard to find up at Chilao, if you can get up to Chilao. But this is pine green gentian, a genus Frasera, which along with Mariposas and Calochortus, Frasera is one of my favorite genuses. They have a lot in common. They have the same little structures called nectaries that attract the insects, but the way the white and the blue interact on the petals, every petal is different. I'm just mesmerized by that, I have to say. And all the other members of the genus have something similar going on as well. Also in Fraser Park, in Lockwood Valley, I ran across scads and scads of desert mariposas. I don't think of Fraser Valley as a desert, but it was excellent for desert mariposas in June this year. And when I got these home, I said, were these flowers, I mean, really that intense? And I thought, I should tone it down, you know, in Photoshop or something, because nobody will believe I didn't monkey with the flowers, but that's really what they were like. They were just that amazing color of red. As I said in my Facebook post, you know, California poppies wish they could be this color. So. One of the great trips we got to do this year was Roger Raish was kind enough to escort us across some privately held properties to visit a rather bizarre geological area known as the Cedars. Lots of serpentine soil, lots of endemics there, peculiar flowers, all kinds of things. One of the things that I wanted to see, not the only though, was this particular Mariposa, only found up in that area, called the Cedars fairy lantern. It's another fairy lantern, but if you looked at all 5 or 6 varieties of fairy lanterns in California, this is probably, without argument, the roundest of them all. Most of them actually lose their rounded shape as the petals splay open, but the Cedars fairy lantern, it's one of the field marks that it retains its round character. Well, on the way home, because the season was so late this year, almost all the flowers were around longer and later than before. We simply couldn't avoid the temptation to stop by Ring Mountain in order to see the Tiburon Mariposa, which grows only there. It's a very rare flower found probably in an area about 1 square mile. And it was only discovered in the 1970s, if you can believe that, on this open preserve. But it's just an amazing flower. And perversely, I love Mariposas from the backside. I just think that there's, the sepals are so amazingly etched, like an old pen and ink drawing. But the flower itself is lovely from both sides. All right, thank you.
Can we ask
Sure.
what you use to shoot?
Yeah. Your question was what I shoot with photographically. I took a lot of photos with a point and shoot for many years. Probably spent 8 years with nothing but a $200 point and shoot Canon. But for the since 2019, I've been using what is that? It's Panasonic Lumix Micro Four Thirds camera with a dedicated Olympus macro lens. in order to get the macro shots. So that's it. And except when I use my Samsung phone, which I use because I want to geotag my photos, and my other camera doesn't do it. So I always take one photo with my phone so I can geolocate everything I've taken.
Well, I love lilies, the Mariposa lilies too, and I couldn't believe your photos.
Oh,
I've
thanks.
never seen anything like it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kim Santel, are you in the room or on Zoom? Roger, any luck? Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and present Kim's submission. So I was really taken by this photo. You know, living in the San Gabriel Valley, this bridge needs no introduction. It is just such a stunning architectural work with a beautiful California poppy in the foreground. So I loved her framing of this. It was very beautiful. And then for her second photo, I really enjoyed this tree in Eaton Canyon. It looks like it's an oak tree, but I love the root system that's above ground and the light. It's very artistic. And so thank you, Kim, for your submissions. And then Neil Turner, I think you were going to be remote, Neil. Are you on the Zoom?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm going to turn up my volume. So just one moment, please. Yeah. Are we back to the slideshow on the Zoom? Okay. Neil, can you speak again, please?
Sure. How's this?
Okay, let's go ahead and share screen then. Share.
You did. Okay.
Okay, good.
Now we are.
Okay, Neil, can you say something? I'm going to put the mic next to you here.
So thank you, Jennifer, for putting my photos onto slides and putting the captions on. Most of these were taken in my garden in Altadena. So I love desert marigolds because they're blooming just about year round in my garden. And they attract some interesting insects here. I think this one's a pollinator. Let's check out the next one. I spent a significant amount of money on a lot of Arroyo lupine seeds from S&S Seeds out in Ventura County, and they produced a good bloom this year. Let's go to the next. So, of course, they're not native, but Western honeybees are all over my garden in the spring and, in fact, year-round. And the elegant Clarkias had a good year, too. Let's do the next. This is one of the ones that's not in my garden. This is golden currant from up near Millard Canyon, just above the campground there. Let's do the next. So the hummingbirds especially love the fuchsia since it blooms later in the year. So they kind of go crazy fighting over it, and sometimes they come off the flowers, and you can see their face is kind of covered with pollen. So this Anna's hummingbird was in that kind of a situation. Let's have a look at the next one. It was a really good year for butterflies for me. Lots of monarchs, lots of the blues, lots of sulfurs, and this painted lady. So the blue-headed gilia, I only get a few of those for some reason. I put down a fair bit of seed, but I've only had a few come up, but they're popular with the butterflies. Let's do the next. So this Owlswood Blue Ceanothus, I believe I bought this at a previous CNPS in Gabriel Mountains plant sale, and it's doing well in my side yard. Let's do the next slide. I think this is the last one. So this is another one out of the gardens. I went for a walk up the Arroyo Seco Canyon. So there's a picnic ground. I think it's called Paul Little Picnic Ground, a mile or two up the canyon above the bridge by JPL there. So this is a Humboldt lily. So that's all, and thank you very much.
Oh, we have one more. We have one more, Neil.
One more. Okay, yeah, you're right. I did get one of the native bees.
I love this one. You can't miss it.
Yeah, the Valley Carpenter bee. I get a few of the different bees. They're a little hard to tell apart, but iNaturalist is great. There's lots of folks on there that care about bees and help me with identifying the carpenter bees. And they really loved the lupines this year. So maybe that's the last of the slides. Oh, one more. Okay, yeah. So,
I love this little guy. He is so cute.
the bush tits are, and I should say, so lamb's quarter, some people kind of think of it as a weed, but I quite like it, and the birds do too. So it makes a great perch. It grows to sort of 6 or 8 feet high in my garden, and there's a lot of seeds around this time of year, and the finches really go to town on the seeds, kind of strip them bare, and then they dry out, and they keep making a nice perch. I have the birds come and land in them, and it's easy to photograph birds for most of the year afterwards on the dry stems of last year's lamb's quarters. So I suggest people don't pull them, but let them grow in a corner somewhere. Oh, okay. Even one more.
Last one. Then. Yep.
I see. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So another advertisement for letting things stay even after they have finished their flowering. So this is the Clarkias, and so I let the stems stay, and the finches come and eat them. They come and check them out. Even after most of the seeds have been eaten, they come back and check them out again and again. So they must be extra tasty.
Neil, can you share what you shoot with for your pictures, please?
I really like my Canon 300mm lens. So it focuses down to 5 feet. So it gets to about 1 to 4, so quarter life size. So it's like a macro lens, even though it's not advertised that way. But it's that 5 foot standoff distance lets me not bother the bugs, the birds, and the critters.
And do you work with a tripod or just handheld?
Handheld mostly. So the lens has image stabilization, which helps with that.
Fabulous. Any questions for Neil, either on the Zoom or in the? Okay. Neil, thank you so much. I loved your pictures.
Thank you.
Oh. Oopsie. Oopsie doopsie. Neil, you have
this one's obvious.
So in case you can't see it, there's a hoverfly in there as well, everybody. Yep. I really think we're done now, Neil.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. David Goldstein? Hello? So you can advance with the space bar, or I can do it for you, whatever you prefer.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, well, I shot some pictures from my home native garden, and it's a wide diversity of plants. I put the genus and species below so you could see the generics. So I'm trying a lot of different types. And I'm trying Yerba Santa, which I found very interesting because I have in Chatsworth, it gets to be 105 to 110. And I have sandy soil. So, kind of we're limited to desert type arrangements that don't need a lot of water in the summer. So here's a Yerba Santa on the left, and then on the right would be the apricot mallow, desert mallow. These are kind of plants that you can get that are pain, which is where I got most of my plant. So I'm a big fan of Datura. How many of you like Datura? Or great, I'm glad to hear it because Datura's gotten a bad rap. People think, okay, it's poisonous, you're going to die and things, but you don't. Nobody has to eat Datura, by the way. You just have to enjoy the flower. So I'm a big Datura fan, and also it's great for stabilization, just like Baccharis piloalis, the coyote brush, and I'm a big fan of that too. We'd prevent some hillsides from falling down if we had more Datura and coyote brush. So the middle one is a manzanita, and that's pretty easy to grow too. I find it likes some shade. Doesn't like direct sun, but it doesn't require much water. The same with the CNPS. That's the same thing. The yarrow, most people can know what yarrow is. That it's pretty commercially available at most of the nurseries. And also the Helianthus annuus, the sunflowers, everyone can get that. So these are just some plants that you could put down and you don't really need to worry about it, especially with the winter rain. And I think I threw some sweet pea seeds. I got a seed package and I threw it down and it turned into sweet pea, which is great. And also Fremontodendron is a really interesting plant, flannel bush. It doesn't want any water in the summer. It doesn't want it. It stored the water from the winter, and it's hard to get it to bloom. But if you get it to bloom, you get a beautiful yellow flower out of it. And bladder pod, I think it's just a baby, so nothing really happened. That's just a plant right now. Everybody here knows what hummingbird sage is. I'm sure everybody's got some in their garden, right? Okay. And then the middle one is penstemon. It's a firecracker penstemon, which I got. I didn't actually get it at Theater Pain. I got it at Green Thumb, but it works pretty well too. And if you grow narrowleaf milkweed, you could get the little caterpillars, which turn into beautiful butterflies, and that's great too. So the primary thing that you can grow in Chatsworth is sage. You grow white sage, purple sage, and black sage, and they do great. And you don't need to worry about them. You could basically mistreat them and they're going to do fine. They like really hot weather. They don't want a lot of water. In fact, you don't water them at all in the summer. And white sage especially, it's really easy to grow in hot, arid climates with sandy soil. So I'm a big fan of white sage. These are some other ones. Another picture of bladder pod. The Eriogonum fasciculum, the buckwheat is a really great plant. I love it. A lot of seeds, and the birds like it, and it's just easy to grow. Actually, this one on the right, which is a Matalia poppy, I took it at the Claremont Botanical Garden. That wasn't from my garden. And this is in my backyard. I planted three Ceanophyses, Roy Hartman variety, and one of them just took off, and it's just like I don't want to cut it. It's beautiful purple. It does really, really well. Doesn't require any water except it does require a little water, but it basically likes winter water. And then and everybody knows what poppies are. And I like to mix poppies, the orange from the poppy with the purple from the lupin. Makes a really good picture. And monkey flowers do really, really well. There's so many different varieties. And I don't really know if I'm gonna have to ask some experts whether it's actually called Diplacus or Mimulus at this point, or does it matter?
It's Diplacus right now.
Okay. Okay, it could change next year. Okay. So I find they're really easy to grow, and they're beautiful. They have a limited time span, so you got to plant. They bloom in February. They kind of die around May, but they're beautiful while they last. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David and Graham. Yes, yes.
Thank you for labeling your plants for your neighbors. What labeling would you use?
Oh, I just did it in PowerPoint.
But what do you?
On the placards.
Oh, I went on Amazon and I bought them. for the stakes, the names on the name.
Yeah, but what do you put on it that doesn't fade and go away?
Okay, so you have to buy a marker, buy a good Sharpie,
Okay, you do it.
and we buy those from Amazon too.
Okay. Alright.
So the question for those folks online was what David was using for labeling, and the answer is plant labels from Amazon and Sharpies from Amazon. Any other questions for David, either in the room or on Zoom? Okay, Graham, welcome. So you can do this,
That's
and
advanced.
or I
What
can
about-
do it for
What
you.
about going backwards?
Forward. There you
No,
go.
no.
So Graham Bothwell.
Well, it's nice to be here again. Back in the middle of the pandemic, I don't know how it happened, but I somehow developed a desire to visit the Pinnacles National Park. It's a fairly new national park. I think it was a national monument for a long time. If you don't know where it is, it's a little bit south of Gilroy, which is about an hour south of San Jose. And in mid to late April, we made a trip up to the Bay Area, and on the way back, we were able to see this and something else. And my desire to go here was finally satisfied. You go, the mountains here, the pinnacles are only about 3,000 feet high. So don't think this is like the San Gabriels, it's not. And yet it was full of flowers, even though it was a little bit late for the peak of spring, especially at that low altitude, there was plenty to see. And if you're thinking of going there, being aware you can get into the park either from the east or from the west. We went in from the east, and don't go on a weekend or a holiday because there's very limited parking in there. We had to park, or it would have been more than a mile away from the main area. We were parked out near the camping ground, but that was fine. Ooh, did I just kill? That's right. I'll stop waving my hands around.
Are you Italian? You sound Australian.
Aye. And we were able to follow the creek along. It was just a lovely walk in. Spent an hour just getting in there and walking in. And then you find your way up the creek and then go up. There's even an underground part of the walk to the top there, but I haven't shown them here. Well, let's show you a few pictures from Pinnacles. This is in the creek bed. Just the silverbush lupin is a big bush. It grows higher than I am, and it's got nice woody stems on it, and it's most unusual. I'm used to lupins that just come up out of the ground as a little tiny thing. But, this is, you can see the solid stem on this thing. It was quite substantial, and there were lots of them, and it's growing in the creek. There's lots of flowers. I just put a number of them on the one slide here. Most of the flowers up there, you can find also down here in the San Gabriels. And a few you can't. But things like the Chinese houses, they're down here. But the thing in the middle, the Indian warrior, does anyone know what its species is? And what its more common name of it is? It's a lousewort. And I fell in love with louseworts in 1994 when my father-in-law took Mary and me all the way up north past Fairbanks, past Anchorage to Fairbanks, up to Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean in Alaska. And up on the north slope, louseworts are everywhere. They're different from these ones. And amazingly, there are even some growing in the San Gabriels. And this is a species I hadn't seen before. And the caterpillar Phacelia, you get lots of those around here, of course. And the blue fiesta flower is one I hadn't seen before. And the Chinese hedge nettle I hadn't seen before. And the one that says in the forest, the miner's lettuce, I put it in there. I wondered whether to put in miner's lettuce or the maidenhair fern, both of which were prolific there. I put in the miner's lettuce because the leaves were the biggest miner's lettuce I've ever seen anywhere. Of course, they're nice eating too. And of course, the larkspur we see down this way as well. So yellow monkey flower we'll see in damp patches in the St. Gabriel's as well, but this patch was just very pleasant to see. There's lots of moisture there. Oh, the woolly Indian paintbrush, you'll see that down here in the San Gabriels. I've seen it particularly on the other side of the mountains here, but there were lots of them there. Oh, yeah, and the hoary-leaf Ceanothus crassifolia is probably the most obvious one that grows down in this area, and you see in the early spring. I was surprised to see how many of them there were in bloom there. They were just really nice. They're quite a tree, of course. And then finally, a picture of Bear Gulch. This is the Creek Valley, Bear Creek Valley that we walked up. And just to give you some feel of what the forest is like there, it's just very inspiring. It's heavily wooded and just very nice to walk along. I just enjoyed walking through the forest. And then I've got a few other things. Right back at the beginning, John mentioned Shell Creek Road, and Shell Creek is amazing. And we were actually on our way to Carrizo Plain, and this is the next day. And the Carrizo Plain was, by this time, late April, was largely gone. But at Shell Creek Road was in absolute profusion. I've never seen so many flowers in one place. It was amazing. Of course, the variety isn't as much as you might see in other places, but it's mainly, of course, as John said, it's goldfields and tidy tips and lots of lupins and baby blue eyes and that sort of thing. And dandelions, of course, everywhere. It's they tended to be, you see a proliferation of one thing, you go a bit further and you see something else. And this, I think, is purple ice clover. Is it purple eye clover or something like that? Is it? Yeah, it was very nice. I think that might be my last one, isn't it? I don't know either. Oh, some more lupins and tidy tips. It just went on and on and on. We spent a couple of hours just roaming around in this place. It was glorious. Anyway.
Graham, can you share what you used to photograph, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, for years and years and years, I did what most of us do. I had my favorite camera was a Canon 7D body. And why did I get the 7D? Because it's absolutely robust. If you can break a camera, I'll do it. And it does not have a tilting screen at the back. It's absolutely solid, but it weighs about 34 ounces. And then I love the Canon 100mm macro lens. That's my favorite lens. And that pair has been my standard for many years. And earlier this year, we went to Africa, actually, and I decided that I didn't want to be carrying all these lenses again. It's a real weight. So I decided to do something different. I did a bit of research, and what I used for these, I bought a Sony RX10 Mark IV. It's not a new camera. It's been on the market 4 or 5 years now, but it's got the equivalent of 24 to 600mm zoom. It does not have a macro mode, but it does close focus. And all this work isn't macro, it's close focus. And I'm still learning how to use it. And I can do wonderful landscapes. I can do close focus with flowers quite nicely. And I'm getting to very much like it. And I don't have to carry a great barrow full of lenses with me. It's not a small camera. It's fairly large, but it's relatively light. I'm loving it.
And one other just don't run away yet. One other question for you is the Pinnacle.
Pinnacles National Park.
Yeah. How large is that national park space-wise? About, would you say?
Not very big.
It's pretty compact, right?
Yeah. It can't be more than, I don't know. Someone here might know. I think it might be 3,000 or 4,000 acres. No more than that.
Did you see any condors when you were there?
Pardon?
Did you see condors when you were there?
We did not see any condors. It's the place to go to see condors, particularly up on the high peaks when you take the walk. We didn't take the really high walk, but yes, there are condors there. We didn't see any.
And are there any questions on the Zoom or other questions here before we move on to Karen? Graham, thank you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I'm excited to introduce Karen. As I've been putting this presentation together, I lost my shoes because you blew my socks off.
Oh, I was thinking, I was like, okay, I didn't do enough homework.
I would
because there
see
was
one
great
photo,
photographers.
and at that point I said, well, I'm not putting any photos in here.
Oh.
So you can advance through this,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, so I'm all about education and my patch. So I live in Monrovia, and so a lot of the pictures you're going to see are in my yard, or this is up in the clamshell walk. And the rain this year, I don't know if I've ever seen scrub oaks so loaded with acorns. I just had to take a picture of that. It's just super, super cool.
Karen, do you think that's burrata? Quercus burrata?
You tell me. I probably got it wrong. So,
I think it's either Herbifolia or Dorada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ilicifolia is the Italian oak that's all around.
Okay. okay. My Google search was wrong. Okay, which part? This one? Oh, that one. There we go. So my backyard, and this is not the full native woolly blue curl. This is the cultivar that I got from California Botanic Gardens, but it bloomed. Huh? Yeah. And it has just been really, I've killed a couple of woolly blue curls. So I tried this and it's been very successful, and it blooms almost all year round. And I was telling some people earlier that I, like to go sit out in the backyard after a day's work or whatever and wind down with the hummingbirds and see if my Sontail hawk will come by. And my twisty chair, and I put my arm on the rim, and I have to sit like this because if you raise up your lens, you'll scare everybody off. So I have to sit there and wait. But these are the rewards. Alan's hummingbird. So this is up in our wilderness preserve and the cloverleaf access area. If you haven't walked up there, it's really beautiful, and you can do as short as long of a hike as you like. And the larkspur was amazing this year, and I love the color combination with the buckwheat. And again, the hummingbirds were going crazy. My backyard, the fuchsias, even like just exploding right now, and I'm taking pictures of them sitting in my chain link fence. They don't even have to fly; they just sit there and eat. Oh, okay, I've got to be in camera. Sorry. So my backyard again, and this was from Peck Road Water Park, along the trail there. Close to the restrooms, there was some milkweed, narrowleaf milkweed that came up, and I was excited to see a cat on it. And another reason why I wanted to show this, I hear so many people get so upset about the aphids. It's like, don't worry about the aphids. They're fine. Just leave them alone. Leave it all alone, and it'll be fine. And so I'm a birder and plant enthusiast and everything like that, but I encourage crossover education. Get yourself a butterfly guide, learn the difference between the butterflies. So much fun. And so the 2 dots, marine blue and buckwheat, should be in everybody's yard. It's such a keystone plant. And the inside of the marine blue and the buckwheat. And so hold on, I'll go on camera later. So up at the Station 103 in their Monrovia Wilderness Preserve, they built a shed because some of their equipment got stolen, so they needed to lock it up. They disturbed a lot of the ground around there, and we have a new nonprofit conservancy group that raises money for our parks and our wilderness preserve and canyon park. And the rangers requested some native plants. Instantly things were coming. A little green sweat bee, native bee. and one of my favorite butterflies, the common buckeye. And this is up in the Wilderness Preserve from Cloverleaf as well. And I could spend an hour looking at one buckwheat. And this one particular buckwheat just was covered with these common buckwheat butterflies, buckeye butterflies, buckwheat, yeah, that's why they call them buckeye. Okay, now we know. And then my backyard, I think half of the fun of having native plants is getting rid of your lawn is decorating with art and sculptures and things like that. So, and then I like to take pictures with the birds that come along. And I got my coffee berry in a pot there. And to the right here is, I'm not quite sure what manzanita that is. I think it was called a desert manzanita or something. So I'm hoping this year it'll bloom for the first time. But right now the fuchsia is just going bananas. This is up in the Wilderness Preserve as well. I love the native bees, and I particularly love this butt shot of this female Bombus Krachachi, however you say it. But I just love that. And I planted from our plant sale last year, the goldenrod, and they said if you plant it, they will come. And they did. So it's just covered with gray in the front yard and one of the backyard, and I'll have to wait to see if it propagates itself or whatever, but I might have to plant more of that, but I'm definitely going to be pushing it at the plant sale this year. And so I was shooting with Canon 100, Canon 100, 400 with a 5D. It's heavy. It weighs 6¼ pounds. So, but if you put it on full, I can get pretty close and take macro. Not as good as macro as the macro lens, but I'm not going to carry around more than one lens. But and I definitely seriously want to go mirrorless and lighter, and it's the 100 400 is about the same weight as the 100 500 now. So I don't really want to spend, another $6,000, but we'll see what we can do. I've heard then on the last Audubon trip they were saying, oh, just get the cheaper our one. So we'll see. I'm still doing my homework, but for now carrying around the big heavy camera and lens. But
one question
Okay,
for
sure.
you: is there a best time of day that you were taking these shots to get such great butterflies?
Well, the nice thing about butterflies is they are solar powered. So the heat of the day, and I've talked to some people about this, it can be 108 degrees. And if you're looking at something beautiful, your mind goes on vacation and you don't think about the heat. So don't worry about going out in the heat. You can see butterflies, the birds, like more the morning or the evening. But we get to be entertained by butterflies. And I found that once I'm looking at one species, I think somebody else was talking about this earlier too, that you stand in one place and you just start to see more of other things. But they like it hot the day. So pretty much not when it's cold and cloudy, and when we're more comfortable, the butterflies like it hot.
Any other questions for Karen, either online or in the room? Okay, Karen, thank you so much.
And please share your plans, your slides, your knowledge. Go to Rotary meetings, go to Kiwanis meetings, go to schools. Think outside the choir, spread the knowledge, be teachers, and let's keep more native plants going. My Monrovia, the Monrovia Garden Club, we got $1,000 from the city of Monrovia to give to yards that were not water sucking yards. And I picked judges that were more native plant enthusiasts. And we had 2 houses in each quadrant of Monrovia that were really nice specimens. So it's starting. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. next up, we have Dobby McLean, who everybody knows and loves. So,
This right here. So, CNPS offers great field trips. And this spring, we participated in a field trip that was offered by CNPS Joshua Tree with with Steve Hartman as leader, who has been a desert expert and CNPS president and many other functions over many years. So we were really excited that we had that opportunity to go on that desert trip. It was in the first week of April, and we hadn't been to Joshua Tree at that time of year, or at all, very, very much. So we were very curious how this is going to be. And on that trip, I tried to take as many pictures to document the different species as much as I could. And I came up with at least 80 different species. And I wanted to do this show as a representative of that trip, and it was really hard to come up with 12. So, but I tried. The species were different from what we have in the St. Gabriel's, so I had to learn a lot, and I hope I got them all right. But I don't vouch for it. Anybody has a different opinion, please let me know. Phacelia crenulata. The leaves of that plant are fascinating, but I choose only 12, so sorry, can't see it. Now, purple mat, that plant really look like a mat. The whole ground is full. But I found this close-up of the flower really nice. So one little flower is only maybe half an inch or less, but lots of them make the mat. Nama de Misa. Now, golden sun cup. That first picture that you saw, the canyon full with the yellow flowers, I think they were mainly the golden sun cup. And I don't know how to pronounce this. Kailismia? Brevitas? I don't know. Somebody knows? Kleis?
That's a new genus for me.
I don't know. Just golden sun cup sounds so much better. This beaver tail cactus, we are familiar with the beaver tail cactus. We have that in the St. Gabriel's too on the north side, but this is Joshua Tree. And April, remember, this is the first week of April. You normally don't have cactus flowers at that time of year. So that was really nice that we found this particular one, and you can just imagine how many more flowers there are, all those buds. Another one that really fascinated me were the desert bluebells, Phacelia campanularia. When I first saw that, of course, you try to identify based on what you know, but it looked very similar to the Phacelia minor, but not quite. they were bigger, longer, and they didn't have this constricted at the end of the lobes. So it had a different shape, and but otherwise looked very similar to the Phacelia minor. Gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And this, no flower. Remember, it's April, beginning of April. The name is Gravel Ghost, and it really had these fascinating leaves to me. And it doesn't need a flower to be fascinating. And again, I don't know how to pronounce this. Etrichoceras platyphylla, maybe? I don't know. Somebody can help me out in that. It has supposed to have a pink flower, but again, it's just hearsay. I haven't seen it. Now, Bigelow's monkey flower, Diplochus bigelowi. Now, this one I can pronounce. It's a tiny flower. Well, it's bigger than the Nama. It's bigger than the purple man. Maybe an inch big. And gorgeous, gorgeous. Now there was, on one hike, we went to this granite outcrop, very desert-like surrounding, and there were these white rocks all over. And in those white rocks was this Dudleya, live forever. And I asked the experts that we had on that trip, and they weren't sure what Dudleya that was. iNaturalist suggested that it was Dudleya Panamint and Panamint live forever. But no, and I posted it as such, and nobody has confirmed it. So I didn't put a name on it because I don't know what it is. What did you say,
I
Jack?
said it doesn't seem likely because Panama, I think, is kind of limited to Panama.
Okay, so again, but the desert specialist didn't know it either. So it's. But then we spell it with one C only. So yeah, it was gorgeous, and in bud, not in flower yet, but we don't know what it is. And here another really mysterious plant. You really had to look, take a double look before you actually saw the flower. Sand blazing star, Mensilia involucrata. It had, well, on the screen, the color comes out just right. On this screen that I'm looking at, it's not. So I hope the Zoom people see what is here on the screen, because that's the right one. Yes, that's the right color. Wonderful. Almost transparent. That's just gorgeous. And then some very interesting calyxes and leaves, very, very stunning. This is a thick leaf ground cherry, Physalis gracifolia, maybe. And besides the yellow flower, if you look at the bottom of the photo there, you see the fruit. It kind of looks like a tomato. It is in the same family. Nachupa rosa, you see that often in the gardens and the desert gardens. You see it here, Eden Canyon, it's planted. It's not naturally here. hummingbirds love it, and they had some really huge specimen there. But the beauty of that plant is really in the detail. And one of there were maybe being counted maybe 8 different cacti species, and I think 2 of them we discovered in flower. One was a barrel cactus that was already in flower, and the other one was the Bacillarius. But this one it doesn't even have a common name. The hedgehog cactus is a common name, but this particular subspecies does not have a common name. So, no, this was, well, the picture is kind of misleading. They're more cylindrical, so they aren't that tall, and more cylindrical. Here they look more round. So this is an Echinocereus engelmannii, subspecies engelmannii. I'm pretty sure that this is the right one, but it is the proportion, the angle that this picture was taken make it looks shorter and chubbier than the actual species. And that was it. Thank you.
What did you use to take your pictures, please? iPhone? No.
Yeah, I think the majority were iPhone, and I didn't used to do that. I used to have first a Canon and then a Panasonic, and I still use the Panasonic for to get birds and butterflies. But since I want the GPS for posting the plants on iNaturalist, I started using the iPhone 13.
Any other questions for Gabi? Thank you. And the next submission is David Perrybone?
Perrybone, yeah.
Okay, very good. So,
Hi. So just a quick about myself. I learned about the Plant Society, I guess, early this year. I came to one of the meetings and then became a member, and then got connected with people's Facebooks, and I really was inspired. So these are some of the plants that I've taken this year, and I hope you enjoy them. So this one is actually a fishhook cactus that I took in Red Rock early on in the year. This is a southern alpine buckwheat that I took a picture of in Mount Pinos, which I'm sure you've all been there, but I went there 4 times this year, and I was not disappointed at all. This was out at Bluff Lake, and it's called the bird-footed checker bloom, and it was just beautiful. It was very small, kind of hard to see. And this I really enjoyed because there was I really enjoy photographing bees and insects. And so this was up at Bluff Lake as well. And this is a Western mountain aster. I had never seen a yellow paintbrush, and this was the first time I saw it, and it was up in Keaton Flats up in the San Gabriels. Another shot from Mount Pinos, the brewer's lupine. And one of my favorites, the monkey flower. So this was up at Mount Wilson. Really enjoy these paintbrushes a lot. This was also in Mount Pinos. I've seen this twice this year, one up in the Santa Monica Mountains, and this was just up here, up the road, and very beautiful, kind of hard to photograph because it was really windy. But they're really beautiful, spectacular.
It's a Snapdragon, right?
So, yeah, beautiful, like very delicate, very small too. Here's I guess the California buckwheat and some beautiful butterfly there. These, so I had purchased one of these at the Theodore Payne Foundation years ago. And so when I learned that it was a rare plant, I remembered seeing it, and it was up in the San Gabriel Canyon, right off to that little nature park there. And you can't get to it, so I'm guessing that's why they're still there. Just a golden star. This is up at Stunt Trail, and a lot of these places I got from folks' Facebook pages, and I said, okay, I'm going. Some people answered me and said this is where to go, and I really enjoyed that. So whoever responded, thank you so much. I think this is the last one, and this is out in Mount Pinos, and this is I think this is a San Bernardino mountain onion. I think that's it. Yes.
Thank you, David. Can you share what you were shooting with, please?
Sure. I was shooting with a Canon R5 and some of those were most likely with a 35 millimeter close-up macro.
Your photos were stunning. So any other questions for David?
Thanks.
Is Almond Dodge either on the Zoom or in the room?
Hello, I'm here on Zoom.
Okay, let me get the microphone to you. We have a high-tech holder for the microphone, so I'll try not to screw it up. Okay, ready, Almond? Almond? Do you want to walk through your photos?
Yeah, sorry, my
There you
computer
go.
just paused for a second. Oh, sorry, just a second. I am.
And of course, I'm by mistake calling these photos. They are clearly watercolors. And beautiful ones at that. Yeah, there's quite a few. Almond, are you okay? Okay, well, I'll just introduce this first one, and Almond, if you are able to, just please jump in. So it looks like what's happening here is that Almond is painting out in nature at the Canyon Hills development site, and she came across, of course, this beautiful plumber's Mariposa lily. So this is a watercolor on paper per the description.
Back.
Oh, are you back?
I think I connected to stable now. Yes.
Okay, so hopefully I did you justice so far. You're painting these out in nature, right? And we have a beautiful plumber's Mariposa lily, right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
and this one was seen at the proposed Canyon Hills development site in Tujunga, which is slated to be graded, the mountaintops cut off and shoved into the canyons for a bunch of luxury homes. So if you want to support this cause, please follow No Canyon Hills on
No
Instagram.
Canyon Hills?
And have a
Okay.
website.
Yeah,
Yes.
and maybe Mickey Long, you could help impact this. That is a horrible thing to hear about.
And then this is Calochortus catalinae, the Catalina mariposa lily. I saw it at Malibu Creek State Park. And this one is painted on black paper, actually. So I kind of worked backwards and used white gouache and light colors to create that image. This is Calochortus Tomi's star tulip. And I actually saw this one in Oregon at $8 Mountain Botanical Area outside of Cave Junction. And it grows on serpentine there, but it's got a pretty wide range that extends into California as well. And this one is also painted on black paper with watercolor and gouache. And this is Salvia columbariae, the chia sage. I saw this one in our local Verdugo Mountains. And this one is a pen and ink drawing colored with chalk pastel. And then this is Delphinium cardinal, the scarlet larkspur, also seen in the Verdugo Mountains. And this is obviously just one leaf because I find the leaves to be really, really stunning and intricate and beautiful, especially those little spots of crimson at the little creases. So yeah, I just really wanted to capture that. And then this is Mara macrocarpa, the wild cucumber. And this is another pen and ink with chalk pastel. And this one I saw in the San Rafael Hills, which is a really beautiful spot near Montrose. And then this is Sambucus mexicana, the blue elderberry. Another watercolor on paper. Saw actually very near to my house. And I really wanted to capture with this painting the sort of almost metallic blue gold sheen on the leaves when the sun hits them just right. This is Arnothera elata, the tall evening primrose. And this species occurs in California, but I saw this one in New Mexico at Valles Caldera National Preserve while I was doing a season of field botany out there. Another watercolor on paper. And I don't know the subspecies. I don't know if the coloration on the petals is just unique to this individual or if it's a subspecies. And then Populus tremuloides, the quaking aspen, which should be turning now, I imagine. Also occurs in California, but this one, these leaves are ones that I saw at Valles Caldera National Preserve as well in New Mexico last fall. And then this is a cyanotype. So cyanotype is a very old classic photographic process using chemicals on paper that are reactive to UV from the sun. And so this is Claytonia perfoliata, sometimes called California lettuce. And I placed these leaves and inflorescence on the paper in the sun, and then it creates the image. And then this one is Phacelia minor, also near my house, also known as Whitlavia, another cyanotype. And I wanted to point out this is very exciting to me. The trichomes from the plant seemed to react. Some substance on the trichomes reacted with the cyanotype chemicals and created this speckling finished image, which is a really exciting thing that I didn't know was going to happen. And then this is a collection of oak leaves. It's some scrub oak, but I'm not confident on the species ID. And these ones were also seen at San Rafael Hills, and they're actually very, very small leaves. If you can't tell on the big screen, they're really tiny, and this is a pretty small print. And they're very fun to lay out together like this.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Our next submission is by William Hallstrom, who is here in person. Hi, William. Welcome. And you can use the space bar.
To advance. Hi, everybody. I'm William Hallstrom. I guess in addition to being an enthusiast of photographing our native plants, I'm also the field trip chair for our chapter. So my slide presentation will be also a little peek at some of the things that we saw this past spring. So this is a wall of California polypody ferns. So what happened? Early March, Margaret Gallagher was going to lead a couple of trips to view ferns here in the San Gabriels locally. And so this was on a weekday when we had all the rain happening. I remember somebody emailed us like, chances are it's going to rain tomorrow. Are you going to cancel? And I think I contacted Margaret, and she's like, nope, we're going to do it. And so, we walked up 3 miles on the Mount Wilson Trail with the goal of seeing the giant chain fern that's up there, and about, like a number of other ferns along the way, including like coffee fern, goldback fern, coastal wood fern. It was kind of a neat trip. It was almost like going back in time, I thought. And sure enough, when we got up to actually view the fern, it started raining, and it didn't stop the whole way back. So I believe this was probably our most adventurous field trip this year. I know I was wearing a light rain jacket, which probably was not quite up to the standard of what happened. So this is images, just kind of, to me, it captures what happened. I was like tucked with my camera, like holding it. It was like dripping wet, and all the rain's coming down. And I think that even somebody remarked that this is like probably the perfect time to view ferns in our local mountains. And it took me down the rabbit hole a little bit. Like ferns are at least 380 to 390 million years old, which, like the angiosperms, the flowering plants, are like less than half that old. So if you think like ferns were the predominant plant life during the time of the dinosaurs, and yet, now they kind of just make up a little niche of plant life. And of course, our own ferns here in the San Gabriel Mountains have developed, unique strategies to cope with our climate here, like the California polypody here, which is of course a drought deciduous fern, which you probably won't even see right now, but should spring to life again if it rains again. So actually, probably the best field trip that happened this year was the Joshua Tree field trip that Gabi mentioned. We were so lucky. Steve Hartman, I don't know if he planned it this way, but he said that he hasn't seen anything like this in like 5 decades. And yeah, like Gabi said, there was just like an amazing number of species to view. That's kind of hard to capture, but you can kind of see the little sort of super bloom thing that was happening here. Some poppies. I think there's some of the bluebells that Gabi mentioned before. And yeah, just an amazing trip. We spent the time hiking out in these washes and just encountered like so many amazing plants. Which, you know, like also having been to Joshua Tree Trip a few times before, like I associate it with like the amazing rock formations there, and of course the Joshua trees, but not this kind of color. And here's just the California barrel cactus, also from that Joshua Tree trip, and of course the Joshua tree that most of us think about when we think of Joshua Tree is the Joshua Tree where the Joshua trees grow, which is actually in the Mojave part of the park, which is above 3,000 feet. And we spent most of our trip in the Sonoran desert part of the park, which is below 3,000 feet. And we were based out of the Cottonwood campground there. And there you'll see like more of like the ocotillos, the cholla cactus, the smoke tree, which are associated with that lower elevation desert. This was a trip to Saddleback Butte State Park with Mickey Long. And I just confirmed with him that these are actually the desert dandelion, the Malacothrix glabrata. And I think this photo just kind of captures the fleetingness of things that happen in the desert. You know, if we had gone a week earlier, we might have also seen the, pretty sure that's the Bigelow's tick seed that's also sort of in the background there. It's now getting a little crispy, but it kind of shows you the transition and the fleeting, like, you know, spring that we experience here, which, you know, is even kind of more amplified when you go to the desert. And these things just like, you have to be there at that window to catch things happening. And this was the field trip to the Tujunga Wash that Roger Clem led. And also good timing. We managed to be there when the Chaparral yucca was fully in bloom. An amazing plant that, you know, starts off as like this tough, spiky sort of plant. And they take about 10 to 15 years to mature. And then suddenly they grow these, you know, like stalks and then produce these like, just like, you know, it goes from this tough, like armored plant into like these luscious sort of pillowy displays of leaves. That also sort of, you know, and they only bloom once and then that's it. And then they form these kind of really elegant sort of silvery dried forms. This, I'm pretty sure, is the deadliest cymosa that's endemic to the transverse ranges here. I think the contrast between sort of these delicate plants with these beautiful colors in this really tough rocky environment is super interesting. You know, like just our rugged, super crumbling San Gabriel Mountains where like these rocks, I was trying to kind of climb up and find a place to shoot from. And, you know, not all the rocks seem that stable. So, and yet here's this plant that's sort of just thriving in the little crevices of these crumbling rocks here. And taking it back to, this is Eaton Canyon. Sun cups, I'm not sure the species, but this one is Chemisoniopsis, I think, and probably Bistorta, says Gabi. I, you know, like many of you, I totally geek out on these forms and like just the intricate details. Actually, you remind me, especially like with the Joshua Tree trip and some of the other trips that there's these amazing, like, you know, everything, so many plants here are small, and the beauty is like when you go close and when you can see these just amazing like forms and shapes and colors and little like details that that are like, you know, exist in this tiny little amazing world. And here, Phacelia, I think Caterpillar Phacelia, also in Eaton Canyon. I guess, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that, you know, we had our own little amazing displays of wildflowers like in and around our alluvial sage scrub here in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. And once again, like if you look at the details and these little fine, intricate nuances of the little Phacelia flowers, and you know, and even the seed pods, and then you know when you see the little hairs on the stems, it's all hard to see unless you get up close. And finally, you know, just I guess even here within sight of downtown LA, in a place that I kind of recently discovered called Ascot Hills Park, which is kind of linked to the chain of there's like Flat Top Hill and Debs Park, which you may be familiar with. And here's this one of our, you know, our annual sunflower that's just, you know, managing to hang on and survive, like right there, surrounded by all of this, you know, intense urbanity. So I guess I will close with that. Thank you.
Can you share what you were using to photograph with?
Yeah, so I recently got the Canon R5. I'm a big fan. And yeah, I also like to use the Canon telephoto zoom lens that is a great, like a wildlife lens, but also kind of really a great double as a macro lens as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next submission is Terry Keller. There you are.
Spacebar. Got it. Thank you. I'm ready. If any of you'd like a plant to take home, I have California sagebrush in the back there. Please take as many as you'd like. I want to encourage everyone to post their photos on iNaturalist. It's a great resource for researchers to find out what is where and when they're in flower, when they're in seed, so and what kind of pollinators they have or other visitors, things that are feeding on them. So please do that. And as many of you mentioned, it's also a great way to try and get identification or confirm identification. And also, again, a plug for our plant sale coming up. You don't have to know a lot about plants to help out. I help people get their purchases to their cars. You know, don't have to know anything about the plants to do that. You know, so but there's quite a need for that. So please make sure that you help out. And I believe on our website we have a place where you can sign up as a volunteer. So I put the term ecology in there because you're going to see more than just flowers in this. As a lot of you were already showing, you're trying to take a picture of a flower and something gets in your way. So I've got a lot of things that got in the way of the flower and are going to be shown here. All right. I didn't think anyone else would be showing miner's lettuce tonight, but we already had 2 of them. So these have some visitors. Right? And I mentioned visitors because even some things on a flower, it's not necessarily pollinating. Some things are just there to get or to take. They might come into the side of the flower and drill a hole through it, steal the nectar without helping it in the pollination. So I think some of you already showed the Ackman blue. And then on the right, we have the Sarah orange tip. Okay, so this is going to be in kind of a chronological order through the year, jumping around to different places. So this is up in the San Gabriel Canyon on the West Fork road that goes up to the Cogswell Reservoir, a location where we've had some of our field trips in the past. Jumping to home garden, this is the Western Tiger Swallowtail and the California Buckeye. And got this plant from a nice resource to go after you've already gotten all you can at our plant sale. This is from the Los Angeles County Fire Department Nursery in San Dimas. All right, you just call them up, make an appointment, go over there, and they help you select plants, and you've already paid for them with your property taxes. So it doesn't cost anything. So, but you never know what they're going to have.
You said it, did you say it's county fire department?
Yeah, LA County Fire Department, Forestry Division Nursery. Okay, so if you've ever gone to like the LA County Fair, they're the ones usually giving away pine tree seedlings and things like that. All right, the buckwheat we've seen quite a bit of today. Again, this is in home garden and lots and lots of visitors. And we've seen the caterpillars of the monarch already tonight and the marine blue. So just a few of the things visiting the buckwheat. If you want to get a lot of bugs into your home garden, buckwheat is a great plant and doesn't take much care. Visited the Bordilla Reserve with Vicki Long in June, and we got to find them in flower, so that was pretty neat for me. And they were pretty abundant amongst the fields of dried up grasses. And so again, on the right there, a visitor, a flower-loving fly, may end up pollinating it. Maybe it's just getting food. Again, on the buckwheat, and this time the San Gabriel Canyon, just at the entrance location. And same place, more things on the buckwheat, or actually back up in San Gabriel Canyon again, Crystal Lake, the Windy Gap Trail, heading up to Big Cienega Springs. So lots of things loaded on the buckwheat, so just covered with all kinds of insects feasting on the nectar and the pollen. If I had posted this photo to iNaturalist, I might have gotten an ID for you other than it's a native bee. And Mickey had already posted the thread-waisted wasp, so that's how I was able to get the name for that one already. Again, buckwheat, a great plant if you want to see lots of activity in your home garden. Up at the Big Cienega Spring, this is just north of Crystal Lake. Field Crescent was up there visiting on the Bigelow sneezeweed. Lots of other beautiful flowers up there, but I just picked ones that had visitors on them. Okay, also on that trail, the giant woolly star. I think I need to get a few more letters in the woolly star. Being visited by in the tiger swallowtail. And we saw one of these earlier, the American lady. Okay. In this case, visiting the Yerba Santa, also orange sulfur visiting the Yerba Santa. Okay. Also, as you get into the foothills and up into the mountains, we can have the pale swallowtail, which is very similar to the tiger, but paler. Sometimes they can almost have a yellow to them. And then as we saw earlier, the gray buckeye as well. And a big thank you to Jennifer for putting this all together.
Can you share what you were shooting with?
I use a point and shoot super zoom bridge camera, the Canon SX70HS. It's got a small sensor, but if you hold it still, it can at least get documentation photos.
Thank you so much. Oh, we're done. So, oh, do you want to close it out?
Well, I want to be able to show the art submission.
Okay, that sounds fine. So I'm just going to thank you know, all of the folks who submitted pictures. Thank you so much. And all of you, it was quite a thing for me to put this together. So I also want to thank you for being so cooperative with everything. So thank you for that. Gabi at this point is going to share some of the art that is on display here in the room. Are there more pieces than that? Okay. Oh, yes, this is fabulous.
So if
Oh, yeah.
yeah, if you can, here we go. See the picture. So we have, we asked for art submission and photos. And one of the presentations were photos of artwork, and that was really great. And I'm really glad that we got that submission. And it also tells us that the photos were artfully as well. I would like to give the opportunity for the Zoom people. No. Can they see this? It doesn't look like it.
No, here we go. Let's go back. No,
Oh, you need to turn the background off.
No,
it's blurred. Oh,
Because it's
turn
trying
the
to find
blur
your
off.
face and it's
Gotcha.
blurring the
Oh,
background
I
and
see.
it's considering
and I think you need more light, don't you?
technology.
There we go.
Okay, so
There we go.
now, oops, it has a glare. Ah, here we go.
Okay, there you are.
So this is a painting by Susan Rotto. And Susan is not only an accomplished artist, she's also a volunteer in pulling weeds at Santa Fe Dam. So many of us have different hats, and we do appreciate all the different hats and the ability to see beauty in our native plants and habitat, beauty and relaxation and all the good stuff that makes life enjoyable.
I think you should note that what you can see on Zoom doesn't do it justice.
That's totally true. You want to say something?
It's a creek orchid that's right on the little trail right outside this building. And I sat out there for like 3 hours one Sunday. I was working on a drawing of an orchid that lives only in Oaxaca, Mexico. And they have a sort of a clone of it over at the Huntington, and I was volunteering at the Huntington. And well, if you volunteer to watch this particular room, you can use this specimen and draw it. It was a great deal. But one afternoon while I was doing that, I came up here to the Sunday plant walk, and somebody showed me one of the native orchids, and I was just in love with that little plant and had a lot of fun sitting right out here and drawing that plant. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that completes our presentation for tonight. Thanks everybody for participating, and thanks so much again for everybody who submitted photos. Really, it was a pleasure to see all of your work. Thank you. Good night, everybody.